anyways if you did. Oh, Karachi volunteered for something and I didn't call on her. I'm sorry, Karachi. I'll get you next time, darling. I apologize. I didn't see the thing pop up. I blame Sam. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the unification of Egypt, and this is going to be under Menes, also known as Narmer, also known as the Scorpion King. And when it happened, we only have guesses. So we think circa 3050, and circa is that little C in the front, and circa means around. Because, you see, Aiden hasn't given us the keys to his time machine, and Avery hasn't hot-wired it so I can go sneak into it yet. So we don't know the exact dates because we haven't gone back to see it. They didn't have birth certificates back then. Haley, unfortunately, wasn't writing the complete history of Egypt where we have all of the perfect dates. So, for example, one source says 3050 BCE. Over here, we're going to have it around 3100 BCE that we think this happens because we don't know. But what you do need to know is originally Egypt was two kingdoms. Yes, count them count them two. We have Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. Yes, Alicia, darling.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that. And yeah, on the bottom figure, there's each of the crowns and then the two crowns combined. But yes,
Exactly.
I'm
And
an
that's
ancient history nerd.
yeah, well, I love it. Now, because what we had here is we had two Egypts. Now, why again? Because I'm just so forgetful. Why is Lower Egypt in the north and Upper Egypt in the south? Why? Do you know this one, Karachi, since I failed to call on you earlier? Mariah is frozen in the most hilarious of images. Danielle, do you remember why, darling? No. Alicia?
Because, if I remember correctly, because they were going in the way the river flows.
Yes.
So
Exactly. So Lower Egypt is downriver, aka Lower Egypt. And so we have that going on for our situation here. Now, so Narmer is going to go and wind up being the first human, legend says, to rule Egypt. So now, if they say he's the first human, who are they saying was ruling Egypt before Narmer? What do they think? What do you think, Aiden?
An animal.
Well, animals are a guess, but no, they didn't think they had the animal kingdom going on there. So if it wasn't people, what kind of beings do you think would they say would be ruling? And this is something I haven't taught you yet, so you don't have, it's okay to make a guess. We first have the animal kingdom, which unfortunately is not true, although that'd be really cool if we had like monkeys ruling or like tigers or something. What do you think, Lance?
Gods.
Yes, precisely. The Egyptians believed that they were originally ruled by the gods. So, but Narmer was worthy enough to hold the crown. Yes, you'd like to add something, Alicia?
yes, if I remember correctly, first it was Ra, then it was Osiris, then it was Horus.
Very good, very good. So wonderful. I love it. We're going to talk a lot about mythology tomorrow. Now,
Yes, yes,
when
yes,
we
yes,
talk
yes,
about
yes.
Narmer, sometimes we call him Narmer. Sometimes we call him Menes. Sometimes we call him Scorpion King, and then they make movies about this guy being like this mythological monster kind of pharaoh, when really he was just, a dude. All right, and so like we said, legend has him being the first human ruler, and he is the person who's going to unite Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt into one kingdom. And as Alicia pointed out, it's symbolized here, where when we look at the really, really, really old hieroglyphs, Upper Egypt is represented with this crown, which kind of looks like a bowling pin, on the top of their head. And then, of course, Lower Egypt had this one that looks like a chair. And then we have the combined crown of Egypt right there. And that's how we have it. Now, Narmer is going to be important because he is believed to be the beginning of the very first dynasty. The very first dynasty, meaning our first line of rulers. And so the way the dynasty works is pretty simple. We have King Let's see, who's my king here? Let's go with King Nicholas. And King Nicholas is going to go and rule. And then he goes and passes on to the afterlife. We have, of course, our Nicholas II taking the throne. And then, of course, when Nicholas II passes on, then we have Nicholas III and Nicholas IV, Nicholas V, Nicholas VI. That's how we have a dynasty. And there were 30 in all of Egypt. All right. Now we're about to look at a zoomed in image of what we have going on right here. So what do we think is happening? And these are just, this is the original, what it looks like. And this is if someone went and just showed you what the picture was without having it hard with, more contrast. So what do you think's happening over in this image here? Start us off, Mr. Estep, please.
So the king of Lower Egypt is having a battle, and he's killing people, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, definitely looks like we've got a king here, and it looks like some people have had their day ruined, and this guy looks like he's about to have his day ruined. Okay. In this image, who do we think is Narmer? Madeline Kate.
The man that's holding that rod thingamajigger.
Okay. And why do you think so, Karachi? What tells you?
Because it says that Narmer was the one who united Upper and Lower Egypt, so he had to be some sort of conqueror to conquer one of the Egypts, and he looks like he might be like battling or like fighting these people. So I think, and since it looks like he's winning because he had to win to unite the Egypts, I think that's why I thought it was him.
Very good. What are some other indicators that this is totally the king right here? How else do we totally know that this is the king? Aaron?
Because he has like a very long hat.
Okay, so he's got the crown right there. Very good. What else makes it show that he's the king? Danielle?
Because he's usually the kings have all the power, so right in this picture he basically has all the power. He can do whatever he wants.
Oh yeah, you can tell he's in charge right here, like holding this guy by the hair, and he's about to mess him up. What else shows that he's the king? There's some other indicators. Austin?
He has fancy stuff that he's wearing.
Yeah, he's dressed so fancy. Like it looks like he's got like some fancy like knee pads or something like that, or looks like he's got a fancier kind of clothes. Like these guys don't even have clothes. Gross, I know. Unless this guy they have like a sheet. Super gross. So he's got fancier clothes. What else shows that he's the ruler besides the crown and his clothing, besides the fact that he's about to like ruin this guy's day? Mariah, dear? You just raised your hand, yeah. What else do you think? How do you know when you look at him? What's another indicator?
He's like bigger than the rest of the people.
Exactly. He's bigger. He's right in the middle. It's like you have to look at this guy. So we have Narmer conquering. Very good. What's going on here, do you think? What do you think, Karachi? Yeah, what's going on with that bird thing? And Karachi, I'm sure you're giving me a beautiful answer, but you're muted, my dear.
So it kind of looks like the guy is somehow turning into a bird stick thing.
I know, right?
Also, I have something about how we know he's the king. Not only Mariah said how he's big, but I was also gonna say it's kind of like a symbolism, like he's more powerful than everyone else. Yeah. So they make him taller than everyone else. Yeah, it's almost like a symbolism showing that since he's the tallest and the biggest one of them all, he's the most powerful.
Very cool. I like what Danielle just said, like the bird is like at Narmer's service or something like that. So with like them saying with the legend that he's the first like human king, yeah, maybe like this is like showing the gods are like into it. Because I mean, like, this is like pretty weird. Like the bird, like I don't know if is he prying open that guy's mouth or putting like a ladle or something, and it's like a half man, half like peacock kind of thing. It's pretty weird. And then it looks like maybe we have a priest back here or something like that. It's a very interesting thing. And like, what's going on here? Are these the gods showing their approval? But they don't look like the normal Egyptian gods. So who knows, right? This is where some people would be like, they're aliens, Mr. Kenny. Oh, there are so many like TV shows that are like aliens in Egypt. Most of that I wouldn't take a lot of credit for, because the idea with like aliens building the pyramids is basically the idea of saying, oh, well, these people couldn't have done it, which is really actually not very nice, because people unfortunately use that kind of thing for not very nice things, saying, well, they couldn't have done it. Alicia, last idea before we move on, darling.
I think that I'm I have 1 to 2 theories. My first one is because I know that at least some of the gods can turn into birds.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's a god in bird form.
Oh, good idea.
Hurting that guy. Or also maybe like the Egyptians had all sorts of weird monsters, like a cheetah with a giant snake neck. So I mean, that's also shown on the Narmer palette somewhere, pretty sure. So maybe that is some type of weird monster.
Very cool. Love it. Okay, so now moving on. So this is what we wind up eventually. Oh my goodness, this is a disaster. It didn't work like I wanted it to. So I got to close that, and then I can open this. It like popped on my other screen, so I got 4. Oh, good. Whoa. I was worried I just messed everything up. So he's going to wind up eventually creating what we have the Old Kingdom of Egypt, which here we have the estimation 2850 to 2052. You're going to see lots and lots and lots and lots of different dates with this thing going on. Nice haircut, by the way, Carson. And so it's all kind of a guess. So let's look at this government that he's going to wind up creating. Now, with Egypt, we have 3 periods of time where we're going to have consistent rule in Egypt. And that's going to be the Old, Middle, and New Kingdoms. Spoiler, though, even the New Kingdom is super duper old. This happened a long time ago, but that's the order: Old, Middle, and New. And we're going to look at each of them as we study Egypt. I love studying Egypt. It's so fun. Now, we have been using the term pharaoh this entire time. However, it's technically incorrect. Really, they didn't take the term pharaoh, which means great house, until the New Kingdom. But because everybody and their dog knows the term pharaoh and calls the Egyptian rulers pharaohs for all of time, even though it really only applies to the New Kingdom, we're going to call the Old and Middle Kingdom rulers pharaohs as well, although it's technically not true. Now, when you're a pharaoh, though, you had absolute power. That means total power, all power, meaning Pharaoh Samuel, who also looks like he perhaps has a haircut as well, looking sharp, sir. He has the king that rules over all completely. When Pharaoh Samuel wants some toast, he snaps his fingers. His royal cooks are going to get him some toast. He wants chicken soup? All right. Chicken soup is going to come. He says, I'm throwing you in jail. C Money for going and calling out and impersonating Mariah earlier. C Money's in jail. You know, it happened. Now, this whole kind of government is called an absolute monarchy. And when you are in 3rd and 4th grade, hopefully you discuss some absolute monarchies, such as the Sun King, Louis XIV. Now, how do we see this manifested? Well, first off, the pharaoh owned everything. Yeah. Those pair of glasses you're wearing, Aiden, they're actually the pharaoh's. He's letting you use them. That house you live in, that's the pharaoh's. That keyboard you're typing on, the pharaoh's. The apple you're about to eat, the pharaoh's. The computer you're using, the pharaoh's. It's all the pharaoh's. Isn't he so nice to let you have those things?
Wait, so you're telling me that the pharaoh traveled to the future and gave us everything?
Well, this is the Egyptian belief, of course. Since no one has pharaohs anymore, this isn't the thing. But if we were living in ancient Egypt, that would have been the case. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Wunderbar. Now, If you are the king, though, let's face it, and you have all this power, you can't do it all by yourself. No way. Because let's face it, we had Nick being our king earlier, so we're going to keep him as our king. Nick has much better things to do, like be fanned by giant feathers or leaves, and to have like Danielle feeding him grapes and things like that. So instead, the look on Danielle's face, he is going to go and have a large bureaucracy. A bureaucracy is a bunch of government workers to help him. And the most important government workers are going to be the viziers, which are the king's advisors. So viziers, it's one of your vocabulary words. Learn it. Now, the most common example that a lot of people are familiar with is the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis, where Joseph, he's sold into slavery. And then he's in jail after Potiphar's wife accuses him of doing something he didn't do. And so he's wrongly in jail, and he winds up interpreting a dream for the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh's like, "Whoa, you're so amazing. I love it. It's absolutely true." And then he says, "You are now Grand Vizier. You're in charge of everything." He got to like wear the Pharaoh's signet ring, which basically meant his words were the same as the Pharaoh's words. And he wound up going and having all of this power. So the Grand Vizier is someone who has basically the power of the Pharaoh. Because remember, Nick is too busy getting fed grapes and getting fanned with big leaves and like going to parties and things like that. But Nick, you do have 3 jobs as Pharaoh, sir. You have to be the king, you have to be the high priest, and you have to be the general. Some pharaohs are going to focus more on others on these things. For example, Ramses II during the New Kingdom is going to be a general, like first and foremost. He's going to constantly be going and doing battle and great things like that. Whereas other pharaohs, such as King Tut and his daddy, are going to focus mostly on being priests. King Tut's dad actually makes Egypt monotheistic for a little period, meaning they only worshipped one god for a period. And then King Tut, after they go kill his dad, is going to be told, "You should change it back. Everybody wants to go back to all the gods." And then other pharaohs, such as Hatshepsut, the first female pharaoh, is going to wind up focusing primarily just on ruling and ruling well, where she creates a wonderful golden age of trade and architecture within Egypt. Now, part of this is because pharaohs, definitely in charge of religion, were considered gods. All pharaohs were basically gods, and if you have your government being ruled by a god, you can describe that as a theocracy. We've seen cracy before, like with democracy, or that kind of end right there, monarchy, rule. And theo represents God, so power from the gods or of the gods. So we have gods ruling. So that is our notes for the day, where we have Narmer unifying Upper and Lower Egypt, creating, what we see with Egypt, what we know about. And here's just an overview about that government. So I hope you learned something today. I'm going to end the recording. Do we have any questions?